Tuesday, former Clemson football player DJ Greenlee told the newspaper The State that tight ends coach Danny Pearman used the N-word during an exchange with him in practice in 2017. Kenyon Tuttle, a former Clemson player, first mentioned the incident on Twitter while imploring Dabo Swinney to take a stand about what's happening in America. What jumps out from accounts of the incident and its aftermath is Pearman, who still works at Clemson, did not apologize to the whole team. It is clear that Clemson's players, not just the tight ends, were affected by the incident. Swinney demands accountability from his players, but where is it when a coach does something to those players? This is unsettling on many levels. Tuttle tweeted that Swinney discouraged players from participating in a 2016 campus sit-in to protest racism on campus because it would have been a distraction. That year, he dismissed the idea of racism by noting, among other things, that there are black quarterbacks. He could only speak about today's unrest in terms of faith. He is either unwilling or incapable of considering race. If he can't be a public spokesman on those matters, that's fine. But if he can't even deal with it on his own team, if his only answer for black pain is to forgive, he's doing damage to his players and a disservice to himself. Dabo's the premier coach in college football, a legitimate living legend. He has positioned himself as a representative of morality. His program is an explicit extension of his faith. He has decided the standard he should live up to, and it's fair to demand that he uphold it.
Steven Jackson looks just like George Floyd, which is such an eerie twist of fate. They knew each other for 20 years, more than that, actually, dating back to their time in Houston. And Jackson's nickname for Floyd is Twin. So it seems telling that the most optimistic video I've seen in the last 2 weeks, and maybe all year, features Steven Jackson. Just look at Jackson, carrying George Floyd's daughter Gigi on his shoulders, the 6-year-old's favorite thing to do with her dad. Look at how both of them are smiling. Daddy changed the world, Gigi says. And her father's twin, the retired NBA player, her platform, he repeats those same 4 words. Daddy changed the world. This optimism feels unthinkable. Floyd was only the latest black person to be killed by police in America, and not the last. America itself is burning for leadership of any kind, anywhere. But those 4 words, validating them, proving them, that's now our national responsibility. So take another look at Jackson and consider this twist of fate. Because America now has to do exactly what Steven Jackson has already been doing every morning for over 20 years. Wake up, look in the mirror, and recognize George Floyd.
When George Floyd died with a police officer's knee on his neck, begging for mercy until his last breath, I was bitter and numb. And as I saw protesters struggling to defend black life, but then lumped into the tragedy porn of repeated lootings and violence, I was angry. But when I saw comments around the sports world of how privilege lets people dismiss the struggles that black people go through, I was dumbfounded. Broncos coach Vic Fangio declared he doesn't see racism in the NFL before backtracking and apologizing. James Dolan, always quick to defend himself for any slight, didn't think it was right for his company to weigh in on these social matters, but then he backtracked. And Drew Brees said he would never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America. And after the backlash, he backtracked and apologized. What each of these men showed with their comments that they don't understand was why people are protesting or angry or frustrated or in utter despair, or they didn't care. Yes, they have a right to their opinion. But Brees should have known that no person kneeling wanted to disrespect the military. He said it's about unity, that we're all in this together. But where is the unity with black men and women who feel persecuted, brutalized over centuries by those who feel their existence is superior, entitled to end them by calling the police or worse, when that superiority is challenged? For Brees' own black teammates and friends in the league, where was the togetherness to support those protesting systemic disenfranchisement of black people? And where is the empathy? How would these men want people to defend them if they felt this way? These men saw the America they want to see, that is comfortable for them. But if they now want to stand with the black community in the fight against racial injustice and police brutality, How about using their money, their power, their influence to address the underlying reasons for the fight, like demanding civilian review boards with real power and changing laws to hold officers accountable, to show that Black Lives Matter?
In the last 2 weeks, what we've been seeing around the country and in so many other places elsewhere on the planet isn't, of course, a response only to the killing of George Floyd. There have been so many other victims, so many other lives snuffed out. George Floyd's death was a tipping point, sparking a massive reaction. For Maya Moore, one of the all-time greats in women's hoops, a 4-time WNBA champion with the Minnesota Lynx, the issues vexing us now are issues she's been working on for years. In 2016, she was among several Lynx players who wore I Can't Breathe t-shirts in warm-ups and denounced racial profiling at a press conference. Back then, Moore said, "This is a human issue, and we need to speak up for change together." In response, 4 off-duty Minneapolis police officers working security at that night's game walked off the job. Last year, Moore walked away from basketball to work full-time to exonerate Jonathan Irons, a man she believes to have been wrongly convicted of burglary and assault. She skipped last season, and before it was postponed, she announced that she would skip this season too, as well as the Olympics, to fight for Irons, who at 16 was sentenced to 50 years in prison. Then, in March, Irons' conviction was overturned, and that decision was affirmed by a higher court. But Missouri's Attorney General has appealed, and Irons is still imprisoned. Thursday, I spoke to Moore, who had this to say about the current situation in the U.S.
Right now, we're having our eyes open to the bad news of what's going on. But also, I think now people are also able to have their eyes on the good news of where we can go and who we can become now that we've actually are starting to acknowledge where we are.
Which is what Moore has been saying for years. Nothing good can come from hiding from the truth.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.